So, in an age where our lives deviate so drastically from those of our grandparents and our peers engaged in all sorts of unwholesome behaviours on a Friday night, it's easy to romanticize calls to return to tradition. We've spent enough time on Twitter and social media and in political circles to see trad girl influencers bloody everywhere, right? I have seen the argument that it's a positive thing for women to give each other solid advice on how to stray away from feminism. And as a man who has dated women, I know that women do not listen to men. Therefore, women giving the advice is probably the best. And likewise for men supposedly trying to be stronger and more masculine and taking responsibility for each other. The problem I have is I think we're inhibiting a cut flower culture, to steal a phrase from Dennis Prager, where we're looking at a flower, we think there's something really beautiful about it, but in removing it from its roots, it will wither and die rather quickly. And I think a lot of these trends posted on Twitter and TikTok from the like are anything but actually traditional because they're unmoored from their roots, which gave them the archetypes in the first place. So I think we should go through a couple of things that point to these trends, that are trying to teach Zoomers on how to be strong men and feminine women, and explain you're basically wearing the skin suit of tradition, and here's how to do it properly. Don't just wear my culture as a costume, you know? So, firstly, let's address the men. There's an article on the BBC the other day saying, Andrew Tate, I fear an online influencer radicalised my son. And I have a particular bone to pick with Andrew Tate, because he is held up as, especially considering Jordan Peterson went on hiatus for quite a while, the replacement Jordan Peterson, right?
What?
I'm so glad you pulled that face, because I can't stand it.
That is ridiculous.
Yeah. I don't personally see how a guy who says, be a strong man, be a protector, be a provider, also, here is my childless Bugatti-filled mansion full of OnlyFans whores, has your best interest at heart as a man.
Doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And I think with Andrew Tate, because there's just something that rubs me up the wrong way about him. Some people have said he's the replacement to Jordan Peterson, which I think is shocking. But I don't know if you've heard of Kevin Samuels. He's like... He's like...
No relation, I assume.
Oh, yeah, funny. But, you know, he passed away recently, actually. But he was sort of the actual black Jordan Peterson, right. I would say. Just speaking the truth to a lot of modern women, this whole idea of modern female culture, which is what he sort of piggybacked on. I'd say he's more influenced by Kevin Samuels than Jordan Peterson, actually. But with Kevin Samuels in particular, he genuinely did practice what he preached and sort of actually cared about the welfare of women, right. Because a lot of modern female culture is actually caused by emotional mental issues, trauma that women haven't addressed, and then we replace that with I don't need no man, blah 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 blah, that sort of thing. Whereas Andrew Tate, it just seems to come from a place of narcissism for me. And I don't get that impression with Jordan Peterson or Kevin Samuels, who you should look at some of his videos. He's funny as hell.
All right, I'm now encouraged to do a deep dive.
But he speaks so much sense.
So I'm just going to read a little bit from this article here. Will is like many 15-year-old boys. He likes sport, hanging out with his mates, spending time on social media, but his mum fears he's been, quote, radicalised. Jane took a call from her son's school to say Will had been involved in an incident involving a female teacher. She said Will and some other boys had been repeating the news of controversial views of controversial online influencer Andrew Tate to make the teacher, quote, squirm. Some teachers are worried as they've seen a rise in boys quoting Mr. Tate, and I can say from immediate experience, for example, my mum works in secondary school. This is very much the case. I've been on trains before, I've sat in restaurants that are local to me, and I've heard boys in the seats a little bit over calling each other top G and all of this sort of cringeworthy stuff, right? So it is a very pervasive thing among the 13 to early 20s Zoomers who do not leave TikTok and aren't as politically involved as some of our audience are.
Even my sister's boyfriend watches Andrew Tate on YouTube.
My life.
It's caused some arguments.
Well, Blue Nick came in once trying to convince me to go MGTOW for some reason, and he was talking about Tate, and I was like, right, yeah, the guy who runs an OnlyFans cat house, which is basically the instrument of men's digital immiseration by getting them hooked on porn, has your best interests at heart. Really, mate? Come on, you're better than this, bro. One leading child protection expert said the online safety bill... Of course there's an agenda behind this.
No.
Which aims to police the internet and could become UK law next year, should protect, quote, impressionable men from, quote, misogyny. Jane said Will, not their real names, continued to push the teacher at his school in North Wales even when she told him Mr. Tate's views could be described as extreme. He sees a man that is strong and powerful and has made lots of money, said Jane, of her only son. Now, the BBC's scaremongering hysteria here should not lead us to give undue sympathies to the likes of Tate just because they're one of our enemies. I saw this with Boris coming back, for example, and I'm sure you felt the bloody same way, of where I said, we shouldn't be clapping seals at Boris just returning, just to annoy the lefties.
Which is like, even with the Matt Hancock stuff, in the jungle, there was some like childish conservatives online going, I'm going to vote for Matt Hancock to own the left. And it's like,
okay, he literally killed people in nursing homes though.
But own the left, right? You absolute fool.
Yeah,
what are you talking about?
Higher body count than Harold Shit. But it's really funny if he wins.
It's own the left. It's like, oh God, grow up, please.
Yeah. However, I think what we can say is there is a genuine reason for Tate rising up through the ranks. And that is, young boys have been demonised for a very long time. This is why Jordan Peterson was so successful.
Yeah.
But he's far more wholesome, at least before his hiatus, unfortunately. And Tate seems to be in the eyes of men who see masculinity in a material lens, as very successful, as a paragon of unapologetic strength, as he gets all the girls he wants, he goes on private jets, he's got millions of pounds, he lives like a king, he's a top gangster. And the point I'm trying to make is that is a warped view of masculinity because it's unmoored for the reasons that you would be strong in the first place, right? The reasons you want to be a breadwinner. Because this is something we spoke about in the first segment. The world should not be for you, it should be for your kids.
Yeah.
Like, marriage should not be for you, it's you're staying together to build a wholesome family environment to raise a kid.
Yeah.
As a man, I can say, I earn all right money these days from various jobs and being a workaholic. I wouldn't spend anything at all if it weren't for women. I'm going to be honest. Like, if you weren't taking someone out on a date or something, you just have a massive bank account, relatively, and what would you be buying? Like, you'd just be sort of sitting there. There's that joke of, how do men live like this? Where it's just a TV on the floor and a mattress and like a deck chair.
So true, though.
Men are relatively, we're not like magpies, we don't like going around finding shiny things. But this is what guys think of nowadays. They think of the paragon of success as having absolutely no duty, no reason to be invested in something, no reason to give your money up, and instead just being surrounded by material possessions.
Yeah, and it's sad.
Yeah.
It's sad. Because Andrew Tate talks about the Matrix and everything, but he's like the biggest example of what actually entraps people in the Matrix. This whole idea of needing things and you attributing the number of things that you have to your value as a man. And it's just this narcissism culture. And I think there's something really distasteful about him as a person.
I do really like the fact that you picked up on that point because it is like Cypher where he says, I know this is fake, but it tastes real enough for me to feel comfortable doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I'm sure Andrew Tate must know at the centre of his life, and this might be behind his recent conversion to Islam.
Which is just what? Just what?
Drawn to a religion which controls women? Well, I never. But I think he must think, I don't have an heir to my empire, essentially.
Yeah.
Right? This is the other day he posted, like, I'm the modern Genghis Khan. Okay, no. Being a globe-trotting rapist, not a great idea. But he must think, I want to leave a legacy behind, but I can't actually form a relationship that isn't dependent or purely sexual with a woman long enough to have a son and know how to raise him. So there is something very empty at the core of his life. It's a bit Ebenezer Scrooge-ish, where you've got all the riches in the world, but nobody to share it with.
Yeah, there's something not... I've never thought he was like all there mentally, I'm not going to lie. There's just something not quite right there. But I do think him as an individual, like you said, he's got all this stuff, but clearly nobody to share it with. And I just think that he's sort of, again, with regards to the global sort of mission creep towards censoring speech online, I just think he's a bit of a convenient puppet for these sorts of people, if I'm honest. I think he's one of the... Same with the whole Elon Musk thing. I think he's doing great things. But I think that both people like him and Andrew Tate really are just being used to propel, your online safety bills. Even the EU's got one online. There's online. I forgot what it's called. It slipped my mind. But they've got something similar to the online safety bill. New Zealand's doing it. Australia's doing it.
Yeah, New Zealand did the Christchurch Declaration, didn't they? Where they wanted to crack down on online hate.
Yeah,
the
and these are all convenient reasons as to why we need to crack down on hate. Whether Andrew Tate knows he's a byproduct of that, I don't know. But I think he's very much the Matrix that he talks about, personally.
Yeah. So thankfully, the experts have weighed in at the end of this article. Right? Dr. Williams is concerned that the young boys who share extreme views don't think about the consequence and impact on others or their future careers. But she warned it was vital that equality was not just for women, but men as well, because it is still skewed towards women, which could brainwash frustrated young men. I think it's really important that the message we give is that society is equal. It's important for men to feel protected, and it could be we're still working on that equality for young men. Right. Let's say here that she's not just an ideologue, and she's actually trying to solve the problem, right? Let's be really charitable. Young men don't want equality. Like, we want compatibility and difference from very feminine women who we would like to work to be excellent enough to earn and then take care of. So to try and solve this problem by trying to level out the gender differences even more and dispossess young men from their role in society of working hard and making noble sacrifices isn't going to work. And you're just going to drive them more towards the outlandish spendthriftness without any family that Tate's putting online.
Yeah.
So it's not going to work.
Yeah, I agree, actually. The more equal you try and make things, the worse it gets. And interestingly, Jordan Peterson spoke about a number of studies, and actually...
So the Swedish studies.
Yeah, there was a Swedish study. There was another one as well, and I actually was looking at these studies for my university work, and it found that in countries that have less gender equality, the differences between men and women in terms of, the roles that they take in society are actually less different. But when you get to our societies that focus very much on gender equality, the bigger the difference actually between men and women in terms of desires and behavioural traits, which goes to show the more you try and manufacture this whole idea of equality, the greater the difference actually becomes. And then you create people that become attracted to people like Andrew Tate.
Become attracted to someone who sees him as a modern warlord.
He epitomizes what it is to be a man, which is more things and multiple biatches.
I actually don't think that epitomizes. I don't think a harem and a Bugatti speaks to manhood. I think it's quite hollow existence. And so
it is.
Speaking of hollow existences, how about what women are being taught these days to do, right? So if we go to this one, the rise of far-right female influencers. Talk about you. Great. So we have two clips from Vice here. So this video conflates Georgia Maloney, Marine Le Pen, and Lauren Southern with the likes of Jared Taylor and Richard Spencer, so actual white nationalists. So you can see where the angle is coming from the off. But let's watch this first clip.
And if this Vice.
Yeah. Traditionally attractive woman with blonde hair and, a red lip, it somehow it's supposed to seem less odious when they talk about, white superiority, but it's about putting a certain veneer. It's also absolutely about recruitment.
Yes, it's certainly true that the presence of women kind of humanizes and also almost justifies a movement.
Yeah, it makes it softer to hear. It's easier for people to hear a hard message when it's a soft, good-looking woman saying it. It's just
showing the ways in which, there's actually more familiarity, more similarity, between, what the far right believes and what mainstream conservatives believe, I think is really crucial.
There's one key demographic in particular to whom female far-right influencers appear to have a special appeal. And that's other women.
The majority of white women voted for Trump. So I think the media is trying to spin it that, oh my God, all these women are feminists now. I think the majority are not feminists. And when you actually talk to women and say, well, what does that really mean? You find that the majority of them are actually quite traditional.
The irony is that Lotus and other far-right influencers spend much of their time railing against the feminist movement that won women the right to a public political voice in the first place.
I think of women back then not being able to vote and having the whole one house, one vote thing. Why would you marry a man who wouldn't vote in your best interest or you wouldn't agree with politically to begin with?
They sort of position themselves, or they have this posture of, as a woman, I can speak to what feminism really is. Women who feel threatened by it, women who don't see a place for themselves. They think that feminism has made the world a worse place. They think that it is ultimately an anti-woman project. They also describe partnership and motherhood as political action, because when your whole project is about guaranteeing the future of whiteness, fulfilling all of that is a matter of politics.
Dominique, as an obviously white woman, do you feel like your rejection of feminism is to perpetuate whiteness?
No, I don't actually. Funny that. But again, all of that was just completely ridiculous. But I will say that the idea of getting married and having a child nowadays is political. I don't think it's to further whiteness, but I think it's to further sanity, because there is, you know, whether you like it or not, the truth is there is an attack on motherhood, and there is an attack on marriage and family. And when we talk about feminism, obviously I believe that, you know, I agree with the right of women to vote. I think that was amazing. I wouldn't be able to have a platform and speak as freely as I do without a lot of those advancements. But we've come away from simply wanting to be treated, you know, as adults with a functioning brain. We've now turned to actively attacking and hating men. And also this idea that we don't just want to be, you know, seen as equal to men. We want to be better than men, and men must be subjugated. We want to work like men. We want to be, you know, slaves to massive corporations like men. And sadly, what we see is it's not actually made women happier. It's made women more dissatisfied, old, dying alone. And this is what Kevin Samuels talks about a lot. And we're not happier. So surely, and statistics show this, we're not happier. So surely we should be investigating some of the reasons why. And sadly, the reason why is because of this toxic modern feminism that I think has destroyed relationships between men and women and continue to destroy them. So if that's perpetuating whiteness, then cool.
That's going to get clipped.
I don't know.
Well, I think this is the root and branch. This is why they try to conflate with the suffrage movement, even though the suffrage movement literally bombed post boxes, but neither here nor there. The second wave feminists were explicitly trying to destroy the family. I mean, I don't know if you've had the misfortune of having to read Simone de Beauvoir's The Second Sex, which they call the feminist Bible. 1,500 pages of absolute tripe. At one point she says, we need to abolish property and the patriarchal family in order to fully liberate women. So her goal was explicitly to, and she also said that logic in masculine hands is violence. Women believe stories more. And if you look at her footnotes, it's all about like case studies and stories. So she's admitting, I'm going to lie to women in order to abolish property and create socialism, and abolish the family so we voluntarily stop reproducing across the human race. And that's why she told Betty Friedan, who was a sort of second wave feminist in America, who said that women should have the choice whether to work or have kids. She told her, well, we can't let them have that choice because some women will make the choice of being mothers and we can't be having that. So we need to take that away from them.
And that's not feminism. And it's interesting you mentioned that, because this whole idea that we need to take that choice away. You reminded me of all my university reading, actually. It's sort of based upon this idea that women, because according to them, we've been so conditioned into this, you know, patriarchal way of thinking.
False consciousness.
Yeah, we actually can't be autonomous or make autonomous decisions.
That
because
came from Beauvoir.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Oh, so I must have read it. I must not have remembered the name. But yeah, we can't make autonomous decisions because we're just basically brainwashed, essentially. So therefore, we must be controlled, which is funny, seeing as, you know, feminism really is about relinquishing women from the shackles of men and the patriarchy, but that's just applying shackles, just with a different person applying them, which just so happens to be another woman.
Yeah,
which
you're trading the
funny.
kitchen apron for a pussy hat, yet you're still under someone's thrall.
Exactly. It's funny how it always comes down to someone having more power than you and controlling your choices.
For those women who do choose to be mothers, you are apparently an evil white supremacist. Let's play the second clip, shall we?
Alongside the anti-feminist rhetoric from influencers has been the growth of an entire online subculture known as tradwives, who actively reject pursuing their own careers or independence in favour of raising families and submitting to their husbands.
Don't listen to this narrative of feminism that is killing white Western society. Don't buy into it.
The trad movement is this movement to celebrate women who are in traditional roles. You are creating content that celebrates, that, you know, highlights how good the trad life is. It's making traditional gender roles seem appealing, seem cool, seem a part of the future. But if you really spend time with it, and you look at some of these, you know, Instagram accounts or TikToks, what you'll realize is it's as much about what it's against as what it's for.
Thank you for not being ashamed to be traditional, to be Christian, to be conservative, and to be white.
I'm feminine, not feminist, right? And so seeding these ideas that, you know, you want to be like me, Look how great my life is. Children love me. Men love me. Like, look how celebrated I am in comparison to, right? You'll start to see the ways in which being trad is also about being anti something, not just pro-tradition, but anti-progress. No role could be more important in the far right than being someone who is willing to uphold a society of traditional gender roles and to have children and raise children within that society.
Is this supposed to be bad?
Yeah, I know. God forbid you be loved. I mean,
God forbid you raise children in a family. I don't think she realised how...
It's meant to dissuade you from wanting to do it. It doesn't really work.
She just sounds stupid.
And also, for our audio listeners, she doesn't look like someone you'd want to emulate. No. Compared to the wholesome 50s housewives who, and of course they're always going to say, oh, they were lobotomized, they were so drugged up. I don't know how widespread that is. And that also
about them medicating themselves because like they were depressed and stuff.
That's the accusation.
Right.
This also seems like the opinions of atomized millennials who have never spoken to women of that generation. Thankfully, both my grandparents are still alive. They had relatively large families, and one even came from an immigrant background. And they've said, yeah, you know what? We were actually way poorer than you were, even though the world economic forum is reversing trends that way. But we were free. And we struggled upwards through privation, in council houses, moving out of the East End, having families, and that was the best times of our lives. And what we would wish is for you guys to be slightly less materially prosperous, but to be as free and have those small little families that we had, rather than be dancing on TikTok for the viewing of a public that don't really care about you, you know?
Yeah, it's
not great.
Sad. Genuinely is sad, especially when you have people like that completely mischaracterizing it. And, of course, there are the Andrew Tates of, sort of trad female. There is that. But I think that you shouldn't misrepresent the whole idea of having a family, of having a husband, or having a wife. You can't misrepresent that as just white supremacy. What?
Yeah, there's some African tribesmen out that don't have the internet but have lots of kids that would like to speak to you.
Yeah, like, are they white supremacists? It's just stupid.
So if we go on to the last one, please. This is a problem, though, I will say. And that is that 50s housewife aesthetic has been unmoored from the responsibility of being married and having a family, and has been turned into basically a skinsuit that says to women, you can be that stay-at-home girlfriend, but you don't actually have anything to look after besides some cats. And I don't think that's very wholesome. So if we could just play this last TikTok.
Wow, okay.
This is the only time I'll ever say that. If we can play the clip, please, John.
Day of my life as a stay-at-home girlfriend. I first did my skincare routine. Then I did some ice rolling and some journaling. And I made the bed. Then Luke and I got out and picked up some celery juice and then went to his favorite latte place. Then we came home and I made myself a matcha latte and checked some emails, replied to some texts. Then I went for a walk to my Pilates studio and made myself some breakfast. Then I did a lot of laundry folding, and then I steamed my dress that I'm going to wear for tonight. Took Luke to the gym. When I came home, I cut up some veggies to snack on. And then I heated up some soup for Luke. Then I got ready and put my shoes on, saw a butterfly, and then we stopped at this cute wine store, got a bouquet of flowers, then went to my dad's to celebrate his birthday.
So, what's missing from this picture?
You tell me.
The kids. Why are you a stay-at-home girlfriend? Should be wife. Come on, get on it, mate.
What is a stay-at-home girlfriend? I'm still not...
It's a stay-at-home wife, but, as the article says, with none of the legal bindings of marriage or children. Right, so it's just legal, right? Okay. So, God forbid you be responsible or actually, like, attached to someone and invested. No, you haven't got a piece of paper hanging over your head like a sword of Damocles, ready to drop at any minute. The entire point of the stay-at-home wife archetype is you're meant to be a homemaker for the kids. So stop wearing the artifice of wholesomeness when you don't have any investment
when you
in the
just
future.
Clearly don't have a job.
This was also pointed out to me as well. It's like, what happens if they split up? Because she's now got no years of career experience.
know,
So
you
even as
just-
a modern woman, what are you going to do?
Don't have a job. I put on some shoes. Whoa.
Yeah.
I saw a butterfly. And what was interesting as well, when she was filming them, like, coming out of the gate, like, they obviously had to walk back and check they'd filmed it correctly. Like, it's just so ridiculous.
It's
And
performative.
I agree with you. And this is because of, obviously, the advent of, you know, your TikTok and your other forms of social media. They just really encourage this sort of vapid way of living. And there is no such thing as a stay-at-home girlfriend. I'm just going to say you're just a girl without a job.
Yep. Have some kids, get married, do
I
something
know,
wholesome.
do something.
So Rory foresaw this, and if you subscribe to our website, you can read articles like this, and this one has done some real numbers. I had the pleasure of proofreading this before it went out, and I knew this thumbnail was coming, and it's fantastic. And he does make the case of course, it's better than being a whore on the digital red light district of OnlyFans. That's a low bar, though. It's not gonna save civilization if you're just trad posting on Twitter. Yes, it's better that women follow a more wholesome archetype, but you shouldn't just follow this for the performativity of social media. You should be virtuous by the fact that you are embodying the behaviours, not just acting them out as you go along and hoping you catch up to it.
And also, you know, the fact that you're a stay-at-home girlfriend, however, the man that you're with hasn't actually made that commitment. You're not even engaged. He hasn't even made that sort of long-term commitment.
You're
are
dropping
really
off at the gym like you're his mother.
Yeah, you're just wasting your time, and really, it gives men an excuse, because there has to be an equal balance here. You have to, you know, be prepared to fill that role, to, you know, be the homemaker, have the kids, but he should also be prepared to actually make that commitment and actually provide a direction for where it's going to go.
Yeah, and women will be far more attracted to you if you aren't their mother.
Exactly.
Yeah, when you aren't their mother.
Yeah,
rather.
just very weird dynamic there.
Some simple advice: don't do your entire relationship for the cameras. Get married, have some kids. I know it's expensive these days, but your grandparents did it through much harsher times.
I saw this meme thing actually, and it said, you think having kids are expensive now. Wait till you find out how expensive being old and alone is. Yeah. And I think that's a very, very good point. Being old with no one to take care of you, that's far more expensive.
It's a lonely 40 after 40 without a family around you. We hope you enjoyed that segment from the podcast The Lotus Eaters, and we'd all like to wish you a very Merry Christmas. Maybe this year, a good gift might be a £5 subscription to access all of the premium content on our website, such as articles like these from our guest contributors, Reschooling or Human Sabotage, written by Dr. Stephen Hicks, author of Explaining Postmodernism, with an audio track read by Jonathan Crow for our silver tier members. And if you'd like to see the rest of the content we're putting out, you can follow us on Getter at lotuseaters_com on Getter. Thank you and goodbye.